Welcome to Ask the Expert on Contingent Workforce Strategies LinkedIn Group, the number one group on LinkedIn for everything contingent workforce, extended workforce, and the gig economy. I have a really fun topic today and have an amazing expert to talk about it who has such an extensive experience in this industry and on this topic as well because of her experience. So, the topic I want to talk about today is the gaps in the contingent workforce industry. And then what we're starting to see a trend in is the divergence between industry business models and client and candidate needs. And when I say divergence around the business models, we're seeing the business models that are coming in from tech-enabled services to new vendors, etc., are coming in maybe not with the experience, but they're thinking they're going to disrupt. And that word disrupt comes and innovation comes up quite often. But the innovation that they're bringing is not embedded in real life and rooted in real life experiences at large organizations. So, this is a really fun topic because it's one that we got to really start to grasp on because we've seen organizations grasping for innovation and new approaches. And that's important to always innovate, but really you got to start to think about the reality of where you are in your programs. And so this is an amazing topic. And I have Nathalie Manet, who has such extensive experience in our industry, managing both some of the largest contingent workforce programs in the world and then working at some of the largest MSPs that have innovated over the years and run some of the largest programs. So, from being the program leader at Qualcomm to working at Pontoon as a director of solutions and services, managing some of the largest programs and supply chains out there, to then, really truly being a pioneer in the industry with such extensive experience in transforming programs from basic staffing programs to complex total talent management solutions. So, Nathalie, thank you so much for coming on the program today and talking about this really interesting topic because there is such a divergence between business models and needs of programs, right? So,
Yeah,
thank you so much.
definitely. Thank you.
So let's talk about this topic and what you're seeing, because once again, you know, love the word disruption and innovation, but in some cases, programs aren't ready for that, or, you know, others, it's from the vendor marketing side of things that they're promising things that often aren't embedded in reality or rooted in reality. And so then you get yourself into problems as a program leader that bought into the marketing, but then when you try to implement, adoption isn't there or things go awry, and then there's gaps, right, in the program. So, what are you seeing out there, and why is this such an important thing that we need to start to think about before just jumping on the innovation and disruption bandwagon?
Yes. So, what I've seen, Jeff, is that our industry has tremendously evolved through in the past 15 years, right? And even the SIA models that used to be distributed showed a pie chart that was very well defined, dictating the percentage of spend in the contingent workforce and staffing versus white collar, blue collar, or independent contractors or SAO management. And throughout the years, what I have noticed is that even those SIA reports and metrics started showing a boundaryless pie that looked like an octopus with a lot of tentacles because of the diversification of the different solutions out there, and also because of the diversification of the type of contingent workers that the clients now had access to, right? And so all of these, including the freelance management systems, the different technologies, and the AI revolution that we are seeing, has really created a little bit of chaos and confusion, right, for the clients and also for the existing service providers. And
very much
so, right? And so what I am seeing is that there is also a level of intelligence and on the client side, right? They've become a lot more savvier on what is or how to manage their contingent workforce on their own. And so they are now questioning, by seeing this diversification, they're questioning the output or the outcome of the services that they are receiving from the service providers, and whether those services are adequately, encompassing of all of that diversification. And so that's where I see all of this gap.
Yeah, and it's really interesting because, like you said, the evolution of the types of workers, the marketing of new and different products, and we're a industry of acronyms, right? And like you said, the SIA models used to be a little bit simpler, and then now they've included all sorts of acronyms, and there's a lot of overlap between the types of sources of people and some of the different types of services provider, but some of it is marketed with different names and does create that confusion for buyers. And before, though, it used to be simple. It was, okay, we've got, the client needs, you've got the contingent workers, which were usually independent contractors and temp workers. Now you've got freelancers, but are freelancers independent contractors? And now the way they're coming in are through platforms versus traditional staffing that would want to put it through the VMS. And so your original model would be, here's the client and client managers. You have a VMS and a program team, either insourced themselves running it internally or externally with an MSP. And then, you'd have your VMS and then your staffing providers and maybe an EOR that aggregated the independent contractors and directly sourced workers, right? And now you've got direct sourcing that really is just on top of that EOR, right? Often, but it's a direct sourcing team, which is your talent acquisition. You've got freelancer management systems that are acting very much like an EOR, AOR, but saying they're freelancer management systems that are kind of like the platforms that also can provide you their pool of candidates. So kind of acting like staffing firms too, and EORs. And so it's so confusing. And then with that, people are trying to innovate, bringing these different vendors in, and it's not all seamlessly integrating like it used to,
That's it.
right?
That is the pitfall that I'm seeing right now. There are a lot of different solutions out there, and the clients want all of those solutions because their needs have also evolved, right? And so what is happening is that the service providers and the clients are only adding all of these solutions in silo, right? And so let's add this vendor because they offer this global, as you mentioned, AOR or EOR. Let's add this vendor because they have this direct sourcing technology that we need. Let's add this freelance management system. Let's add technologies, AI technologies that come on top of our sourcing channels, right? And help us find the candidate or interview, etc., in a better manner. But all of those are integrated in silos, and they don't really solve for the existing challenges
Yeah.
of the clients, or they don't even meet the new needs of the contingent workers or suppliers, and they create more confusion. So for me, what I have seen in the market is that the service providers have not been able to cohesively solution in an advisory and consultative manner, right?
You're nailing it.
Solution for these types of diversification in a way that seamlessly orchestrated all in a very seamless manner for end users, for clients and end users.
Yep. And that's why you're seeing the program losing traction.
Mm-hmm,
And you're seeing rogue spend slash SOW, and you almost can put it, you don't want to call all SOW rogue spend, but you're seeing a lot of staffing providers, freelancer platforms. You're seeing anything that has a touch of differentiation from being a staffing firm being brought in just on contract over here in SOW. And so you're seeing statistics where the program will have used to have 400 million in it. Now it only has 100 million. Well, and some of it is the economy. But then you go and I love this time of year because it's 1099 reporting season, right?
mm-hmm,
End of January. The 31st is you have to report on all your 1099 large enterprises. And you're
mm-hmm.
seeing the SOW spend and the number of 1099s being issued at large corporations, which is not in your program, just exponentially grow. And so you'll have 400 million over here when it should be all a $500 million program. But because of either, the lack of being able to integrate it into this program and create efficiencies in the program versus inefficiencies to seamlessly bring these solutions in, you're seeing it all pop up over here. And so a lot of providers and MSPs are just chasing SOW, but don't know what it is.
I see it as not bad actors, right? Or
Oh,
rogue people. I don't see it that way. I see it as a trust issue, right? When the services or the solutions are not meeting all of the stakeholders' need, what do? They give up and say, I can do it better on my own. And
yeah.
so they circumvent all of the processes or existing service providers, et cetera, and systems to do their own because the solution is might be flawed or missing an element of solving real relevant challenges at hand.
Yeah. And or providing a value by speeding up it or taking away some of the administrative side of it, but not getting in front of the procurement of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And saying, no, you shouldn't do that. You should put it to me and my staffing arm, right? And that's also where when we talk about divergence in business models, a lot of the large MSPs, and I'm not, they have great programs, but they may not be when you look at the business model, they own staffing companies. That's their bread and butter. And then when it moves away into these other solutions, and other providers coming through, there may be some conflicts of interest, and that's maybe why they're slower to innovate, especially in the direct sourcing realm. We found, the direct sourcing technologies were brought in separately from the program often because the
Mm-hmm.
MSPs were saying, oh, we could do it, but then they were very slow to bring a proposal or a proper solution to it. And then you've
Yes.
got on the other side of the business model spectrum, you've got the tech companies and the platforms and the digital EORs that are coming in saying, we're going to disrupt the staffing industry. And I laugh because, like, half of them aren't. They aren't doing it well, and they are trying to disrupt it. Um, but they're getting in the door, testing these models over here outside of the program versus being embraced by the programs and figuring out a way to bring them into the program. Because at the end of the day, we're trying to find a person a job and a person for the job,
True,
right?
true.
And no matter if you do it in a digital platform or the way we used to do it with fax machines, right? And you get a resume and you fax it over to a client, it's the same actual service. And if you put too many layers in between or too many ways of doing it and don't make it easy to make that simple transaction happen, there'll be things that go outside the program, right?
Yeah.
So I think getting
The
back to
way,
basics is what we need to do.
yes and no. I see it as more of an MSP compliance. Um, that's where we need to do.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
um, so I see it more as an MSP or service provider complacency. Why?
Mm,
Because they rely on past successes. And because those past successes worked 10 years ago, 15 years ago, everybody is still under the impression that past successes are going to be successes of the future. And unfortunately, past successes are not solving for the problems of tomorrow or today
yeah.
and tomorrow
Yeah.
that these clients are experiencing. Our industry has really evolved. Like, I love the idea. When I started at Qualcomm, they handed me binders and, as you mentioned, the fax machine and Outlook, and said, please run the show.
Yeah. Take this chaos and make it
Exactly. Take this
streamline it.
chaos
Yeah.
and somehow make it happen. And so we are in a different world. The needs of the clients have changed. And unfortunately, we cannot replicate, right, the past successes. We have to really come in and put our doctor's hat on and diagnose the root causes of the client's challenges and then solve them properly. Not
Yeah.
give them band-aids like we talked about, right? Adding different components. Let's fix rogue spend. Let's add statement of work. Let's add a freelance. No, really putting our doctor's hat on and offering comprehensive, relevant solutions and orchestration to those challenges that these new clients are experiencing. Why? Because clients have become more savvy and they've gone more global. Talent has different needs for flexibility and mobility these days, right? And they want transparency. I think if I remember correctly, 82%, based on the NSIA report, 82% of contingent workers want transparency, flexibility, and respect into the process. They don't want to be a pawn, chess pawn, and being
Yeah, or a
moved up.
number. They actually want to have
They
their
don't
name
want to be a
called versus
number,
how
right?
much they got paid or the spend that they're worth.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. And then you add on top of that the layer of industry diversification and that boundaryless model that we talked about. And so all of those require a new set of solutions, and more importantly, a new set of measurements for success, right? And so
Yes.
because what I have also witnessed throughout the years is that, and also another SIA report showed that I think 79% of the clients are still using the old scorecard models, right?
Yep.
To evaluate suppliers that were built 20 years ago. Another 80% showed that the the clients' QBRs and dashboards and everything showed green, right? Green on all of the metrics. But the clients, the hiring managers, the suppliers, even the workers were unsatisfied, right?
Yeah.
Via the NPS surveys that they were doing. Why this gap? Because we are relying on what I like to call the watermelon syndrome. And my watermelon syndrome is that everything is green on the outside, but red where it matters.
Yeah.
Why? Because we're using outdated and irrelevant KPIs, metrics, SLAs that were built for the solutions of the past. And we have not tried to reinvent all of those metrics and KPIs, etc., in order to measure ourselves truly and relevantly, not in that fallacy of, oh, we're doing great, everybody's happy, and at the first sign of discontent, the
Yeah, no,
client
and it's interesting when you
leaving
say
us,
that because it
right?
is true. It's looking at the when this whole industry really took off,
Mm-hmm,
it was during the last economic downturn, 2008,
mm-hmm,
2009, 2010, right?
yeah.
Where companies went, I need to save some cost, and this distributed workforce, when you started to analyze it and aggregate it, was a whole whackload of spend. And it was pretty easy to take an
Mm-hmm,
unmanaged spend and cut 10, 15% out of it. And back in those days. And so then, and it's been squeezed ever since, which is a whole other discussion we could have on that's actually hurting our industry. And that's why you see SOW outside the program happen is you get what you pay for often
mm-hmm,
too. And if you're squeezing too hard here, you're going to get the best suppliers coming over here and working outside the program or working for other programs, right? But that's a whole other different story. So it's been very interesting to go from such a revenue focused business and spend management focused to now moving, and we got there a little bit where there was a talent focus, which started
mm-hmm.
to kind of change how we were viewing it. But now we're back into the economic cycle that tends to say, okay, let's look at spend and cost savings. And then those metrics. But almost worse, we're still working with legacy technologies, right? Which I don't think is a bad thing because large enterprises always build off of the legacy technologies, but figure out a way to integrate the new innovative technologies into the legacy technologies or the ERPs. And like the VMSs, right? They do
Mm-hmm.
lack sophistication, especially in the newer realms of freelancer management that's coming in, independent contractor classification and working with independent contractors and that SOW spend outside here as well. They do lack. So, like you had said earlier on the conversation, the source of getting work done is coming from all angles, but the systems we're using to manage it are not innovating, and they haven't been great at integrating with the more innovative solutions that can
Correct.
help them modernize, right? And I think the newer solutions are also at fault for not wanting to integrate into the ecosystem that is already built. So I think
Yes.
that's where those gaps really lie to say, how do we bring the newer innovative technologies into working with the legacy technologies to then give us the seamless and user experience that we're all looking for, right?
Yes, and I see it also as a more of a little bit of an ego-driven kind of
Industry.
barrier,
Yeah.
right? Of we can do it on our own. Why didn't we think about it? Or why should I strategically have alliances, right, with these different newer technologies and newer solutions out there. But I'm a believer that we don't have to reinvent the wheels. Just like this diversification came because there was a gap in the market, and all of these newer solution providers and technology companies came in to fill in the gap, right?
Yeah.
And bridge the gap that existed. So it's no fault to anybody, but why reinvent the wheels, right? For the larger service providers and technology providers, right now is the time of partnership and seamlessly integrating and orchestrating all of these solutions. Why? Because we owe it to our clients to proliferate growth and innovation for them. We owe it not to measure ourselves just based on the money outcome, right? And cost and money benefits for us. We need to be looking out for a genuine win-win partnership where everybody benefits in this mix, including those newer upcoming solution providers and technology companies.
And I truly believe that. I think it's a really interesting time, and you nailed it. I think some of this is ego driven,
Mm-hmm.
and where it isn't ego driven from some of the incumbents, then it's naivety on the other side often, that they're not understanding how to work within these existing programs and systems, etc. And they say, naivety meaning I just didn't know the reality and they hadn't asked yet, and they built their systems in black boxes without really being implemented in a program. And
So
so
yes,
then they're naive, and then they butt heads because they think they're have reinvented the wheel when the wheel's already not broken. It just needs a couple of, you may need studs for ice because I'm here in Canada and it's snowy outside, right? The wheel needs just some studs for better traction on this particular road. So it's kind of interesting that you brought up an ego and a psychology side of this. Why don't we all get along? So, how do we make that happen? How do we do that? And I think, you know, unfortunately, dollars do talk. And so the
mm-hmm.
buyers have to start to demand this. But I think in demanding it, they also have a responsibility to take a step back and think about this and architect things properly and do due diligence around it, not just what is marketed to them. Let's really understand how these will work and beta test it and pilot it prior to going live, because there's nothing worse than implementing a flashy new product and then it not working and then there's no adoption, right? So is it
Agree.
the buy
Agree.
side we have to push, or is it the MSPs? Like, how are we going to innovate and change and then bring more of these solutions together to do what we really need to do in bringing seamless, easy ways to get people from being, from a person wanting a job to a job, and vice versa, a person a company needs to that job too, so that we do it within an organized manner versus kind of this rogue spend, chaotic SOW that's been growing outside of the program because we're not fulfilling the needs. Who's
Yeah,
responsible for it, and what are some of the solutions you see?
we are all responsible for it. Why? Because we are choosing to remain in our comfort zones, right? And for me, comfort zone equals the biggest barrier to innovation and growth.
Yep.
And so all of the parties need to be, ready and willing to just accept the challenges at hand, accept the evolution of the industry, accept that there are gaps, accept that there are new models that we could be implementing, and that the past successes of the past, or the fallacy of this comfort zone and we're good, we're doing great type of model needs to change. No, because the clients have now less stickiness with any of these service providers. There's no loyalty in the market anymore. And so at the first sign of discontent, even if you have had the account for 10, 15, 20 years, in this day and age, if we are not meeting, right, or bridging the gaps of the needs and not getting out of our comfort zone, then the client is going to see us as a name on the contract and switch.
Yeah. And is that a good thing or a bad thing to switch?
I personally like change. I'm not afraid of change. I think that change is good. It teaches us to self-reflect, learn from the past, and do better in the future. So change is good. It teaches us how to get sooner out of this comfort zone that we are in.
Yeah. So in terms of, some best practices, and let's take it back to when either you started some of the programs and you were solutioning them and you were investigating what was out in the market, and bringing new things in. How did you bring people together to help you build the best solutions possible?
Earning the trust first, right? Trust doesn't come naturally. It is earned. And it is earned through consistency and excellency of the delivery, right? When I started at Qualcomm, the program was not mandated, and all of these hiring managers and suppliers were entitled, and they wanted to do their own thing. And it is only through consistency and delivering operational excellence that benefited all parties that I was able to create a program where everybody wanted to actually participate, right, towards the end of my tenure at Qualcomm. So first, earning the trust. Yeah. Second is to remove the idea that we are in a transactional industry. No, we are in an outcome-based industry, right? It's not just placing human beings. Did that human being that we were able to successfully, place on an assignment, deliver the right outcome and results for that end client, right? And it goes back to that measuring for success, right? So time to fill might be also one of those outdated watermelon syndrome type of metrics, right? Because it's not about filling the position faster or filling the position at the lower price. In this day and age did we really meet the needs of that end client, right? It's really going from just money into value adds, innovation. Are we adding value? Are we innovating? Are we creating, people, process, technology kind of combined to help the client? Or are we just offering additional headcount, additional suppliers? Let's add this new contingent worker type. And then lastly, it's for me, it's really removing the complexities of the process or the roadblocks and the complexities of maneuvering either system-wise or onboarding steps or interviewing or whatever that might be, right? removing the complexities and simplifying the process in a well orchestrated manner as if those complexities never existed. And I'm very much so fan of those, Bay Area, technology
Yeah.
companies that have done that, right? Through their leadership, they've simplified the work as if the complexities never existed originally. They do, they still
Yep.
exist, but it's the mind of that solution architect, right? Of the service provider to simplify that
And
in
that's
a
the
manner.
beauty. The beauty is taking the complex and simplifying it. When you
That's
have
it.
a great solution, that's what you've done. And
Mm-hmm.
so getting back to the, hey, I have a job and I have a person, and I'm trying to find a person for that job and that outcome, like you say, the
Mm-hmm.
skills to fulfill, and making the experience one that was so pleasant that they will give you the highest scores and so easy that everybody's got what they wanted quickly at the right price. I'm never going to say it's the cheapest price, at the right price, at the right time, and the right talent, because I think that's also quality is a very important thing in this day and age, especially as we move into do more with less. Having the right people on within your organization, it's not as much about speed. That, of course, that's nice, but most organizations are going to say, I want the right people, not the first one that knocked on my door, right?
Agreed. Agreed. And it's also keeping everybody accountable through the process.
Very much so. And I think, this is where we have to take a step back and take all of the marketing and all of
Mm-hmm.
the divergent business models that are naming themselves something different so they can avoid the program, maximize their profits, all this sort of stuff, and start to define what these solutions do. So is a freelancer management system an EOR? Let's
Mm-hmm.
let's map that, and they are.
Mm-hmm.
So okay, an EOR can integrate into the VMS program, and these you know people that only want to work through platforms, sure, sign up those freelancers through the freelancer management system that's acting as an EOR.
Yep.
We got to go back to keeping it simple versus adding more boxes, right?
That's it. And especially for the end view, for the hiring managers, right? And for everybody in the process, they don't want to go into 5 different systems. They don't even care about the definition of or the compliance piece of I just want to finish this project in a proper way.
Yeah.
And you are the expert here as the service provider, right? Help me just accomplish that in the most efficient way. I don't want to do anything else but to um, just tell you I have this need. And you,
100%. And that is something that the providers have and the MSPs have to understand. Although they take on this I'm a governance model, which is important for their
mm-hmm,
organization. But I think the
mm-hmm,
beauty in creating the best governance model is taking the complexity of governance and making it simple so they don't even experience it, right? They don't feel like it's governance, but it's there built into the seamless process of I'm the MSPs and the vendors have to know, hey, this project manager just needs a person there to finish their project, and that's their focus, right? And so to make that as process as simple and easy as possible, well, handling all the governance in the complexity of governance in a simple manner, and then all the administrative stuff on the back end, like billing and invoicing, et cetera, making that simple woodwork table stakes kind of model too. That is value, right?
mm-hmm,
So I think we got to get back to basics and start taking all of these marketing terms that we're creating that are creating the chaos and saying, "Oh, but we're different. We won't work in the program." and start mapping it, taking the time to mapping it and saying, this is let's go back to the original boxes, right? The client and a program team and a VMS and maybe an EOR and a few staffing firms. Those are the boxes that I could almost guarantee the hundreds of new different solutions providers, they fit into one of those boxes.
That's
So
it.
let's start mapping that properly, taking the time to map that, and then we get back from, where we were. And it's not about the profit, it's about the simplicity of what we were there for, right? And so I think
Yes.
egos aside, profit aside, if we get back to that, I think everybody will be better off, and we will get back to those models of making money again, hopefully as well. So
And
I think there's enough money in this industry still that if we do the right things, it is a very good industry to be in. So
yeah.
last but not least, any other nuggets of gold? Because we could talk for hours and hours, and we have already in prepping for this call. But some of the other things that you've learned in providing guidance to the new program manager that's just taken over a program, either a Gen 1 or a existing program that's kind of chaotic, how do they, you know, figure out these gaps and then start to simplify their world again?
So the way that I see it, Jeff, is that you know how you mentioned their boxes. I don't see it as boxes. That service provider in the middle, I see it as a circle. And then what I see around the circle is many mini circles, right? Around it. And those are the diverse type of solutions and these freelance management systems and technologies and all of those direct sourcing, etc., that are in the periphery of that main circle. And the uh, the 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 success providers of the future are the ones that have already established the um, alignment or integration, right, of all of these smaller circles in the periphery.
Yep.
And the one that I see that is the nugget of the future for me is to offer these types of alliances and strategic solutions in a plug and play model. Why? Because the clients want it at the time that they need it. They don't want it maybe throughout and all the time, and they want to pick and choose. And so the plug and play model, that's the way that.
That is brilliant, and I think that is the truth. So the legacy providers, incumbents, the solutions providers that can adapt to this and be open with the technology
Mhm.
to integrate easily and open with their minds and let go of their incumbent egos to allow
Yeah.
some of these newer providers to come into the tent fairly,
Yes.
right? Not be overtaxed, let's call it,
Yes.
with fees, etc.
Hmm.
Then you'll start to see this chaotic approach that we're dealing with right now and the growth of SOW outside the programs come back in. Because managers, if we get back to it, they just want to find a person for their program that's in the right price, the right person at the right time, and they don't want to have to go outside of the program. They'd love to stay within the program, is my take. Most managers will always do the right thing for the company. They just need what they need when they need it. And if it's not producing in the program, they'll find it a different way. So
That's it.
amazing. Plug and play. You heard it here. Not
Plug
first,
and
but
play.
probably you've heard it from one of the pioneers in our industry. So I appreciate Natalie so much. Like there's so much wisdom in the conversation today, that I can't thank you enough for coming on and speaking with me.
My pleasure. Thank you, Jeff.